Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Puerto Rico has officially raised the death toll from Hurricane Maria last year from 64 to nearly 3,000 following the release of a study ordered by the governor of Puerto Rico. This officially makes Maria one of the deadliest storms in U.S. history. Puerto Rican Governor Ricardo Rosselló acknowledged the higher death count Tuesday.
I am announcing as well that we are, even though it is an estimate, we are officially changing or we are actually putting an official number to the death toll. We will take the 2,975 number as the official estimate for the excess deaths as a product of Maria.
President Trump has so far not responded to the new official death toll, which is 46 times higher than the initial count. But in October, during a visit to Puerto Rico, Trump boasted about the low official death count.
Look at a real catastrophe like Katrina, and you look at the tremendous hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that died, and you look at what happened here with really a storm that was just totally overpowering. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. Now, what is your death count as of this moment? 17?
16 certified.
16 people certified. 16 people versus in the thousands. You can be very proud of all of your people, all of our people working together. 16 versus literally thousands of people.
While Puerto Rico is now putting the death toll at 2,975, Hurricane Katrina was 1,833. Other studies show the actual death toll from Hurricane Maria may be considerably higher. In May, a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine found the death toll to be at least 4,645 and perhaps as high as 5,740 people dead as a result of Hurricane Maria. In Florida, progressive Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gilliam pulled off a stunning upset in the Democratic primary for Florida governor. If he wins in November, Gilliam will become Florida's first African-American governor. Polls had predicted Gilliam would place fourth. He was backed by Bernie Sanders, spent millions of dollars less than his better-funded opponents, including former Congresswoman Gwen Graham, the daughter of Bob Graham, the former governor and senator from Florida. Gilliam was the only non-millionaire in the five-candidate Democratic race. On the campaign trail, Gilliam had called for Medicare for all, abolishing ICE, reforming the criminal justice system, repealing Florida's stand-your-ground law, and increasing corporate taxes. He held a victory celebration in Tallahassee Tuesday night.
We together with all of you, over the next several months, are going to make our way all across the state of Florida to red counties, to blue counties, to purple counties, and we're going to unite this state in ways that are unparalleled in the history of the state of Florida.
Andrew Gilliam will now face off against Republican Congressmember Ron DeSantis, who won the Republican primary Tuesday after receiving the backing of Donald Trump. Democrats have now made history by picking three African-American gubernatorial candidates in this year's primaries: Andrew Gilliam in Florida, Stacey Abrams in Georgia, and Ben Jealous in Maryland. Meanwhile, in Arizona, another Trump-backed candidate, Congresswoman Martha McSally, easily won the Arizona Republican Senate primary, defeating Kelly Ward and former Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio. In other election news, the New York Times is reporting President Trump warned evangelical leaders Monday Democrats will enact change quickly and violently if they take control of Congress in the midterm elections. During a private meeting at the White House, Trump went on to say, quote, "They will end everything immediately. When you look at Antifa and you look at some of these groups, these are violent people." The White House has refused to elaborate on what the president meant. In Texas, former Balch Springs police officer Roy Oliver has been convicted of murder for killing unarmed 15-year-old African-American student Jordan Edwards last year. Police body cam video shows Oliver, who's white, fired his assault rifle into a car carrying 5 black teenagers as they drove away from the officer. One of the car's passengers says the officer never even ordered the boys to stop driving before opening fire. They had been leaving a party. In education news, teacher strikes in 2 districts in Washington state force the cancellation of the first day of school Tuesday. Strikes are expected to begin in 4 more districts today. Meanwhile, in Seattle, teachers and school staff have voted to authorize a strike next week if a tentative contract is not reached by the first day of school, September 5th. At the United Nations, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres is urging serious consideration of a new UN report that called for Burma's military commander-in-chief and other generals be tried for genocide for their targeting of Rohingya Muslims.
Accountability is essential for genuine reconciliation between all ethnic groups and is a prerequisite for regional security and stability. Regrettably, Myanmar has refused to cooperate with the United Nations human rights entities and mechanisms, despite repeated calls to do so, including by members of this council.
Meanwhile, displaced Rohingyas have welcomed the UN report, saying Burmese officials must be held accountable.
The military committed most of the tortures, and there were also border guards and police. Actually, all the government forces committed all sorts of torture on us. They raped our women, killed people with bullets, threw and killed small children, burned our houses, and now there is no place to stay. We have nothing there. So we demand to the UN that they give us justice. We need our citizenship back.
The Indian government has conducted raids across India this week, targeting prominent human rights activists, lawyers and critics of the Narendra Modi government. At least 5 people were arrested. The novelist Arundhati Roy told the Hindustan Times, quote, that the raids are taking place on the homes of lawyers, poets, writers, Dalit rights activists and intellectuals, instead of on those who make up lynch mobs and murder people in broad daylight. Tells us very clearly where India is headed, Arundhati Roy said. France's environment minister resigned Tuesday, live on the air during a radio interview. Nicolas Hulot said he made the decision due to France's failure to adequately address climate change and other environmental threats.
For the first time, I'm going to take the hardest decision of my life. I don't want to lie to myself anymore. I don't want my presence in this government to be taken to mean that we are doing enough to tackle the climate challenge. So I am taking the decision to leave the government today.
The Atlantic magazine has revealed an immigration policy analyst with the Department of Homeland Security had direct ties to several prominent white supremacists, including Richard Spencer. The analyst, Ian M. Smith, worked at DHS up until last week. The news comes just 2 weeks after White House speechwriter Darren Beattie was fired after news broke that he had spoken at a conference alongside prominent white nationalists. Immigration news, about 160 workers in Texas were detained in an ICE raid targeting the trailer manufacturing company Load Trail. One worker described ICE agents raiding the factory from every entrance. He said, quote, they drew their guns and told everyone to hit the ground. California Governor Jerry Brown has signed legislation making California the first state in the nation to abolish cash bail. Brown said he signed the bill to ensure the rich and poor alike are treated fairly. More than 48,000 people are currently being held in California because they cannot post bail. But many criminal justice advocates, including the ACLU of California, came out against the legislation, warning it may result in more people being locked up while awaiting trial. In other news from California, lawmakers have passed a non-binding resolution that calls on the medical community to respect the rights of intersex people and affirms their right to autonomy in making medical decisions. Intersex people have long spoken out against the practice of genital surgery performed when they're too young to give informed consent. The measure is the first of its kind in the United States. And in Colorado, a 9-year-old boy died by suicide after reportedly being bullied by classmates after coming out as gay. Jamel Miles was a 4th-grade student at Joe Shoemaker Elementary School in Denver. Jamel's mother, Leah Pierce, said, quote, we have to stop bullying and teach people it's okay to love each other. We have to stop hating each other for differences that make us equal and unique. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world.